So Star Citizen is continuing its trend of taking older ships and creating an entirely new variant to essentially create a very new ship with a lot less work. This time, it's taking an older mining ship, the ARGO MOTH, and turning it into a medium salvage ship, the ARGO MOTH. Before we get into anything around the ship, I think it's very important to say this. Salvage, in particular structural salvage, is not even remotely in its final alpha form, let alone a release type form. So a lot of the issues around the ship are likely because of the issues around structural salvage. Now let's start out with the positives. It is a mole, but improved. It has all the best parts of it, in my opinion, which for me is the internals. This absolutely feels like the Canterbury from The Expanse in the first episode, where there were just people working on this ice mining ship. This gives that feel to me. How they improve the mole is absolutely with the cargo grid. This ship goes from 96 SCU of mining bags to a whopping 224 SCU of cargo. Something my favorite salvage ships, the Vulture and now Salvation, needed desperately to even consider collecting any structural salvage. The first visual change is the grid. It's now vertical, and it automatically places the boxes on that grid if you use the auto feature from the middle area of the ship, like the Fortune and the Salvation have done. And yeah, that middle area has also been refreshed from the mining ship to now have a more salvage-based look. But there's also a second cargo grid now. This can give either a little bit more space for RMC or other materials, and in the video, the team shows using an atlas to place there, but I see this as potentially a great spot to store components that you might be stripping off and ship weapons, as it holds 32 SCU on that grid. Now, the issue with this grid is the team that worked on the ship did not see the awesome job done with the Hermes and left zero room for error when placing boxes. So the experience loading and unloading 8 SCU containers was absolutely horrible. They even placed maneuvering thrusters where you would remove boxes from the rear of the ship. Now, I think this thing is going to be a beast for RMC with 3 salvage lasers, more than any other ship currently, and if you attach a tractor beam to each, you have so much control over panels or parts of ships that you're trying to strip. You can just bring them to you, push them away, all sorts of stuff like that. Just a note, for the time that this ship was released, there is a bug with RMC where it's just not collecting even close to as fast as it should, so it's not viable to do RMC at all at the moment. So the ship feels very meh right now, but the moment that goes back to normal, I think the ship's going to feel amazing. Now, how does it compare to the Reclaimer? Well, it has a usable cargo grid, as we mentioned, but there is one real large difference: the buffer. This ship only has a 32 SCU buffer, where every other salvage ship has an identical buffer to the size of its cargo grid, essentially doubling its capacity, right? If that was the case for the Moth, this thing can hold basically the same amount of cargo as the Reclaimer, sort of. The Moth requires a little bit more management from that standpoint. Once the grid is full, you'll have to unload it onto your grid multiple times before you're actually full and ready to head back to drop off or refine. And you might expect the max box size that you can make to be 24 SCU, since that's the max box size the cargo grid can handle, but it's not. It is an 8 SCU max container here. Now, I don't think any of these things around the buffer or the container size is really a negative. I think it's learning from player behavior. I don't mind the smaller buffer, and I think the 8 SCU containers is totally fine for a ship of this size. But here's the kicker, and I think this makes this ship much stronger than the others in its class, in my opinion. You only have a 32 SCU buffer, so if you remove 8 SCU boxes, your buffer is cleared, and you can just store the ship without having to take any cargo off-grid to put down the freight elevator, which we all know is painful, and you can just refine from the ship now. That's so much more simple in terms of unloading, right? If you want to clear the Reclaimer buffer, good luck. 13 boxes on the Vulture, 12 on the Fortune, and 6 on the Salvation. So this is so much more efficient no matter what type of salvage you are collecting. Now, in terms of my experience, it wasn't great, but none of that really had to do with the ship. The first thing that didn't feel right was I took a Hammerhead mission, and I wasn't able to fracture it, as the Moth can break up to a Starfarer. To me, the Starfarer is kind of larger than the Hammerhead, but it really isn't in reality, and that just kind of caught me off guard. The rest of the issues I had hopefully will be resolved with future updates to salvaging. We know that construction material is just a placeholder. In the future, you will basically reverse the craft of the ship you are salvaging, so you will get materials that the ship was crafted with back. So if, for example, a 300i is made of only copper and tungsten, just for this example, you will get back a percentage of copper and tungsten rubble if you're salvaging with small ships, copper and tungsten pieces if you're using the Moth, and copper and tungsten salvage if you're using the Reclaimer, which all differ in their refining characteristics, with some being faster and others being more efficient and losing less material. I think all that is definitely going to get some work as well. How I see myself using this ship, let's be real, mostly solo if the RMC experience isn't horrible, but I also see it absolutely killing any reason to use the smaller ships. Like, let's be honest here. They have not much positive going for them besides the look and feel and maybe some stealthiness, but even then they're not very stealthy at all. And yes, I'm aware that they seem to scrape RMC faster as well, but 1 SCU boxes and super limited grids just kills them once a ship like this comes into the in-game shops, right? Now, is this ship a buy for me? Of course. I melted combat ships that I don't use for a ship that I will, as I want to participate in industrial gameplay in Star Citizen. And how can it not be a buy? It's basically an improvement on both the small ships for their lack of space, and it's an improvement on the Reclaimer because of its lack of function. So I love this thing. I just need them to give us more reasons to use it with other systems like crafting and repair / engineering getting more fleshed out, because yeah, you'll use RMC for that most likely, as well as just making salvaging better, as we talked about earlier. Now, let's talk about if this is for you. And with that, we have to talk about the price, right? The thing is $290 if you use new money and $315 if you use store credit. That is so much money for a gameplay loop that is so far from being where it needs to be, in my opinion. But if this is your gameplay loop and you enjoy it, it's hard to ignore how much better it fits compared to its counterparts. If salvaging is just something you might be doing, cool. It's probably just best to wait. And with that, that is my first ship review in a very, very long time. Let me know what you guys thought. Give me all the feedback, both positive and negative. And yeah, like the video if you want more content like this in the future. Subscribe for the same reasons. And I will see you guys in the next one.